All right. Good morning. How you all doing this beautiful sixth day of February? Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good morning, and also you had a good time on the charts yesterday, and also in everything else that you're doing. Glad that you could join us today for the Forex daily analysis. We don't take your time for granted. We know you're busy people, but you always make the time to be here with us. So John is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so we also do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will get back to you, but I will also be looking at them. For the guys who are going to be watching this later on, when we're not live, also feel free to ask questions, comments, on the comment section. And of course, we'll try to get back to you as promptly as we can, but also our contact details are there in the video description. So in case you also do need to reach out to us, make sure that you do make use of them. So we're going to jump straight into it, and we're going to start off by looking at the watch list, which is where we always start every morning. So you can see the watch list right there. This is what the game plan is going to be looking like today. So you can see that there hasn't been that much of a change, just the euro joining the buy side, and you also can see that the US 30 has also gone to the buy side. So we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list today, which are only two. So we have the euro against the Swiss franc. For this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. Also some illustrations of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to come back in within that region. It did not do that. And also maybe in case the market broke beneath this region to the downside, we wanted to see whether the market was going to hold beneath that region to the downside to possibly end up looking for sells. There wasn't anything clear on this one, but in as much as the market did actually end up coming down, it was expected, but in terms of the entry, could have been a bit tricky to end up getting the entry. Maybe unless if you're looking at this as some sort of a range, you can see that the market came back in within this region a number of times and possibly looking for sales there to come down. But nonetheless, nothing too clear. And unfortunately, moving into today, not really something that we will be watching out for. So the next one is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities as well. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to come back in within this area right here. It came so close a number of times. You can see that I set an alert somewhere within this area right here to possibly try and see whether was possibly going to get some sort of a selling opportunity from within there. But unfortunately, it just came shy of that area there. I guess this price right here was good enough for the sellers. The yields yesterday did actually end up moving quite well. I did get a trade in on the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen, which we will be looking at. So I was also thinking that maybe also this one, had it just pulled back just a bit slightly higher, I would have definitely jumped in on it. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Today is another day. We'll see what we can end up getting. So moving on into screenshot that we did get, we got one from Metrin, but we're still grateful. So this is on the NAS 100. So I can see that you got some good buying opportunities down within here before the market took off to the upside. And I can see that your stop losses at least are all within one particular region, which is good. Good to see that you've taken heed to the advice that we did actually end up giving. So instead of having your stop losses for the different trades within the various trades, at least now putting and piling them together within one place, which is really good. So this is some really good progress. And of course, in terms of where you put your stop loss, also good to see that at least you're hiding behind these buyers who are pushing up. And definitely, when you put your stop losses together like that, it definitely puts you more into the money and also pushes you further into the game, and also financially speaking, which is also very good, and risk-wise also very, very good. So shout out to you for that, Metrin. Good to see some very good progress. Keep up the good work. We're really happy to see. Seems like you're the only one who was killing it on the charts yesterday. Remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details right there in the video description. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp. We'd definitely be more than happy to see what you guys are happy, and also at least just to give us the motivation just to see that the information that we're giving you here is actually going into good use. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can see the watch list right there. So today, the 6th of February 2025. This is what we're going to be watching out for. So we're going to start off with the Swiss franc pairs, mix them up with everything on the sell side, move on to the yens, then finish off with the euro pairs, mixing and matching them up with everything on the sell side. Then we'll finish off with gold, silver, the NAS 100, and the US 30. So the first one off the line, the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. Wanted to see whether we could have gotten some sort of incitement of maybe price attempting to break to the upside, coming back in, possibly end up seeing a big seller before we possibly end up trying to see whether we could have gotten some sales. You can see that the market attempted to go up higher, came back down. But unfortunately, you can't see that the market really struggled within this particular region before attempting to come to the downside. So this one, I guess even if you did get the sales, you really needed to exercise a lot of patience on this one. But let's see if today we will get something. Most probably, we could find the market pulling back within this particular region right here. Because if you look at how the sellers are coming down, they don't really seem to be coming in as aggressive as we'd want. And you can see that the market has come back within some sort of a buyer's region here. You can see some sort of reactions that are starting to happen. So it wouldn't be a wonder to actually see the market pull back in within this particular region here. Once again, maybe the market might need to reset itself. And maybe at that point in time, that's when the sellers might actually be interested to come in and you could find the market making a move. So watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR at the top. In case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So moving on into the next one, which is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we also did have it, and we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities on this one. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. We did expect the price to come in somewhere as close as possible within this particular region here. So you can see that there were these sellers here who I guess were really holding the market, but we really just wanted to see the market maybe tap in within this particular area before we actually ended up executing some selling opportunities. The market just tapped within that region and then turned to the downside. But it's something similar to what we've seen with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So the sellers, yes, the market is coming down, but it seems to be coming down in a very struggling manner. So there's a possibility you could find that maybe the market might easily bounce off this region to the upside. And if that does end up happening, I think we could find price coming back somewhere as close as possible, maybe somewhere within these prices right here. So let's wait and see what happens. But in terms of looking for the sells, right now might not really be the best idea. So let's wait and see if we could get the market maybe breaching beneath this region to the downside. Maybe we do get some attempts of the buyers to actually push to the upside, which actually end up being unsuccessful. Then I think at that point in time, we could try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities within here. But right now, since we're more or less holding above a region of support, there's a possibility we could find that during the London session, the market might actually come back in somewhere as close as possible, either within this region here or maybe these sellers right here. But I'm really hoping if we could get a proper pullback coming in, maybe incite a lot more buyers to come in, stop out all the guys who are also jumping in on sales now. You can see that the market is really struggling coming down. That simply tells us that the big boys are definitely not there quite yet. So let's wait and see what happens. Remember the red SNR at the top. In case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we had. Also some game plan of what we're expecting. I was really hoping to get the market possibly coming back in within there. Unfortunately, it did not. But consider the market broke to the downside, pulled back in within this area here. And you can see that from 11 during the London market open, price actually started its journey coming down. So maybe unless you are reading this on a smaller time frame, the pullback and how the market just tapped in within this area here before coming to the downside was quite fast. That's the reason why I'm saying you possibly needed to read that on a smaller time frame. So let's see if we will get something clearer today and also get a proper pullback coming in on this one. You can see that the market has actually bounced off this area here. It's coming back up, which is good. We're within a seller's region. Definitely a good region to possibly end up trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. But hopefully we do see a sign that the big boys are actually interested, because location is one thing, but also the other thing is possibly trying to see whether we can first also get the sellers coming in, because if they're not interested, you could easily find that price could come back somewhere as close as possible within this price right here. So let's wait and see what happens. Definitely we'll be keeping an eye out on this one. So hopefully, let's see if the London big boys do actually end up making a move. In case they don't, then I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens during the US session. So the next Swiss franc pair is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas and also what we're expecting. So price came back in within this area here. The sellers reacted, and then you can see that the buyers attempted to push the market to the upside, but from around 4:30 during the US session, you can see that the market did actually end up starting to come to the downside. It came down all through the US session, and you can see that the market has been held hostage within here, which tells us that there are definitely a bunch of buyers within this region who are giving issues. So for this one, let's see if we can possibly get some selling opportunities on this one today as well. Hopefully the market continues rallying down. But right now, since we're within a buyer's region, let's give these buyers the benefit of doubt. You could easily find that they could push the market back within this area. In any case, if you look at the market structure, it looks like the market is starting to become or get into some sort of range, within this area here. So you can see buyers are definitely pushing to the upside of this area. Sellers are at the top. So I think my best bet in terms of selling opportunities would definitely be somewhere higher up within this area here. It's not impossible for price to come there. Patience is key. Wouldn't be a wonder to see price come back in within here, maybe during the US session. You could find the market actually coming down off this area. You will need to manage your trade within this region right here, because it's not a guarantee that the market is going to break out of the range. So you'll definitely need to do some good money management within that region. And of course, if we do breach to the downside of this area, then you definitely could end up scaling in. Alternatively, the buyers don't react. And let's say we get the sellers really breaking this region to the downside. We get some attempts of the buyers to, attempt to possibly break above this region and get back into the range, which ends up being unsuccessful. Then I guess at that point in time, we could try and see whether we could get some semi-aggressive conservative empties within here to calm down, challenge that buyer right there. So make sure that you watch out for that. Patience is key. I know some of you may think that since we've said that we're looking for sales and the market is within a support region, why not look for the buys? If you do have a good reason as to why you should be looking for the buys, and you can read the story and understand what's going on, there's nothing wrong with it. But let it not just be because I said that we're in a range at the bottom, we should expect price to go up. It's not a guarantee that price has to go up. It's just that, we're trying to read the charts as best as we can, but we already do have a bias of what the big boys could potentially be doing. So that's the reason why, personally, I wouldn't really end up taking the buy. I'd rather just wait. When the market comes within a good region, then I'll definitely end up taking the sell. So moving on into the last CHF pair, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions that we had, almost similar to the ones that we do have today, just slight changes, but you can't see what the game plan was. We're expecting price to come back in, maybe somewhere as close as possible within here. I did actually end up having an alert set somewhere within this region because I was expecting price to come back in within there. But unfortunately, you can't see that the market just turned around within this area. I guess this price was good enough. And you can see that during the US session, price actually started its journey coming down. And right now it's attempting or still kind of holding to the downside of this region right here. So for this one, let's see if we'll be lucky to get some sells. So let's hope we can get the market maybe attempting to come back within this region, because the sellers did react. The buyers are down within this area here. If you're looking for the sells, you're better off getting the sells as close as possible within this region, so that when the price comes in within this area, if you do get some issues, at least you would have already gotten quite a number of pips coming down, and you could easily end up managing your trade if we do get issues and we can't get down here. So let's wait and see what happens within this region here. The region at the top is a bit of a long shot, but like I always say, it's better to have something and not need it rather than need something and not have it. So in case the price finds its way within that region, then at least we should also be ready for that as well. But also remembering that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting aggressive selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the CHF pairs. So we're going to move on to the yen pairs now. We're going to do the same, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can't see what the game plan was. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to come back in within this area here. And you can't see that price just came shy of the alert that I had set. So I was timing the sales within there, came down. Then you can't see that the buyers struggled. In the next attempt up, I was hoping that they could have just tapped within that region to possibly end up activating the sales, but unfortunately, it just couldn't get that price. And you can see that price came down. The buyers have really struggled within this region. And today, during the Asian session, the market actually broke to the downside of this SNR right here. So for this one, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for, more or less the same areas that we did end up having yesterday. So the price has not really moved far and beyond the regions that we had pointed out yesterday. In as much as price has moved, let's see what happens maybe on the retest within this region, because I think that's where price might be heading. Maybe during the London session, we might actually end up getting a very good sell of this area right here to come down till somewhere within this region. So let's watch out for that. But also remember that in case the market breaks and holds to the upside of this region, and this ends up being a probe, price might push itself up to the upside. It might come in somewhere within here. Maybe it might be looking for these prices. Who knows? But I'm really hoping it comes in somewhere as close as possible within here. And at least that will definitely give us more risk to reward. And of course, more range to the downside. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. But the yens generally have been having some very good correlation. And you will see that. I mean, even yesterday when we were looking at them, I'm sure you guys did actually end up seeing that. And when they do actually end up making a move, they all make a move together. If they pull back, they all end up more or less pulling back together. So you will see that even as we're analyzing the yen pairs, it's like we're doing the same chart over and over again. So which means if you do see a pullback on one, have a look at the others. If you see one possibly moving, also have a look at the others. So the next one is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. These are the three areas that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here, and I wanted to see whether price was going to come back in within that region. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The buyers really struggled within this area right here, and you can't see that it was only today during the Asian session that the market actually broke to the downside of this region. So hopefully we will get some sort of pullback coming back in, and hopefully the pullback doesn't come in aggressive. Because if that does end up happening and it breaks to the upside of this area and holds, then I guess we'll have a problem on our hands. But at least if it does come back in slowly with this push coming up, maybe it's these buyers who are somewhere within this region or somewhere within here who are possibly now holding the market right now, and we do get them struggling within here and we get a side of the big sellers showing up. I think this might actually end up being a very good selling opportunity. So we'll just have to wait and see what does end up happening within that region there. And of course, if we do get the sell coming down from here, coming down, we're looking at about nearly 80 pips, which is not too bad. So let's wait and see what happens. Hopefully, if we don't get the trade, moving during the London session, maybe it will be setting itself up, and maybe during the US session, that's when the market could potentially end up making a move. So moving on into the next one, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right here that I had pointed out, and also a game plan of what to expect. So it was either price to come back in within this region here, or maybe potentially end up, if it broke to the downside, the pullback. And after that, you can see that the market did actually push itself to the downside. If you look at the time, that was at around 5:30, which is during the New York Stock Exchange open. That's when the market did actually end up making a move to the downside. So for the guys who look for conservative entries, that was definitely a good entry right there. If you did end up getting that trade, some of us are aggressive. We like to see those deep pullbacks coming in, lots of people getting incited. So let's see what happens on this one today. The market is within a region of support. You can see that the market came down aggressive. The buyers reacted. The sellers attempted to break to the downside, even some sort of a probe within there. And right now, the buyers are doing their thing. So let's see if we can either get the market at least coming back as close as possible within this region right here. I think that's not too bad of an area in terms of looking for the sells, but there's also a minus and within here where you can see that the market has stopped and turned a number of times. And of course, when the market broke to the downside, maybe some sort of a retest within there. So you could find that maybe if the buyers really struggle, if you're a real sniper on the charts, you could potentially also end up getting a selling opportunity somewhere within this region here. So let's wait and see what happens on this one. But there's still a likelihood that price can also come back in within here. It's a slim chance, but if you do end up following the story on the bigger time frame, that level right there is also quite significant. So we'll also be watching out to see what happens if the pullback does start to come in a bit deeper. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas there, also illustrations of what to expect. So I was expecting price there. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, or maybe a breach of this region to the downside before we do end up looking for the sells. But this one came down just like the rest of the yens, but not very clear in terms of at what point you'd have hit the selling opportunity. So the market broke to the downside, never pulled back in within there. Guess the sellers were a bit too strong for the buyers, and you can see that the buyers really struggled. And today during the Asian session, the market has continued to come down lower. So let's see if we will get something clearer on this one today. So these are the three areas that we will be attempting to see whether we can get some entries in, and also areas where we can manage our trades. Right now, the market is within a buyer's region. There's nothing much you can do about that. So we'll just have to end up waiting to see if we can't get price coming back in, maybe somewhere within this region, because you can visually see that there are sellers who push the market to the downside of that area there. But if price comes back in within this region here, I'm thinking maybe it might actually need to end up going for a much better price, because if the sellers attempted to push the market down and they couldn't, on the next attempt, price will definitely go for a higher price than this. And I'm thinking it will definitely put the price squarely back within this region here. And you could find that the proper selling opportunities might actually end up happening off that area there. So let's see what happens. Also watch out for the region at the top. In case price pulls back all the way till within there, then we should also be ready for that. But making sure that we're well aware that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting our selling opportunities. Any breach above that and a hold, then unfortunately we'll have to fall back on our selling opportunities. So last but not least, for the yen pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see what the game plan was. If I do zoom in within this area here, so you can see that in the morning price was here. We're expecting maybe price to come back in within this region here, or maybe breach this area to the downside. And if we did get a hold, then maybe could have looked for some selling opportunities there. So you can see that during the London session, the market was really struggling to get back up within here. But during the US session, price did actually end up coming back in, within that particular region there. So apologies for that. So basically, when the price came back in within this region, of course, a lot of reading needed to be done on the smaller time frame, because on this particular time frame, it's not very clear what happened. But you can see that there were some weeks that started to happen. The buyers shot to the upside, and of course, just reading the detail within that particular region, this was aggressive entry and a cowboy entry. But I did manage to get the sell high up within that particular region, which is here, targeting down within this area, looking for, just about a 1:3.46, which wasn't too bad. Of course, did end up managing the trade there, and the market continued to come down. Definitely, I think something to do with the GBPs, because the same move kind of happened on the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. But also, I think also the yen. So I think on this one, both currency pairs, both the yen and the Great British Pound were working hand in hand. So for this one, for today, let's see what happens. Hopefully we will get a proper pullback and maybe could end up getting another entry on this one today, if we're lucky. So let's see what happens. If I do see a pullback coming in on this one, and of course, something similar with the rest of the yens, then I'll definitely know that the big boys are definitely up to something. But right now, in terms of where the price is, there's nothing really much that I can end up doing on this one. So I think I'll just have to end up waiting. So I'll set an alert somewhere within this area here. Let's see if during the London session, we can get the buyers struggling to push the market back in within this area here. And if that does end up happening, I think the best selling opportunities could definitely be hiding somewhere within this particular region here. But also watch out for the region at the top. In case the price finds its way back up there, then we should also be ready for that. But remembering that that's going to be the last region where we will be watching out for aggressive selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the yen pairs. So we're going to move on to the euro pairs now. And we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So a bunch of these ones are quite new. So we'll start off with the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, for today, we will be watching out for buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we have mapped out that we're going to be trying to see whether we can get our trades in, and also regions where we can manage our trades. So you can see that the buyers have already started pushing the market to the upside. This is a good sign. It tells us that number one, the buyers within this region are alive and well. And number two, the big boys are definitely interested. So right now, the price has come back in more or less almost within this sellers region right here. If you look at how the sellers reacted the previous time when the price was there, it was quite aggressive. And if you look at what's happening right now, this is good. This is a slowdown. If you compare this and this. So I think we're getting closer and closer to the moment in terms of getting the buying opportunities. So let's just hope they can really struggle. Of course, you want to get the price as close as possible within here. It's not a guarantee that price is going to come in all the way till within this area here. You could easily find that it could bounce off this area here or somewhere within here. But generally, you want to get your buying opportunities as close as possible to the bottom, so that also the risk to reward and the stop loss ends up being tight, so that the risk to reward generally ends up being much, much greater. So let's wait and see what happens. But this is a good sign. So of course, if you do get the buys here, definitely will need to manage your trade within this particular region right here. If that doesn't end up, if the market doesn't end up reaching there, then I guess you'll have to end up closing, because you could find the market coming down. But at least if you manage here, then you could definitely be targeting up there. For the guys who are real snipers on the charts, you definitely could add in a trade or two within this particular region there. So make sure that you also bear that in mind. So the next one, which is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, we're going to be also watching out for buying opportunities. You can see that this one seems similar to the euro against the Australian dollar to some extent. So you can see that the market came down. The buyers have reacted. Let's see how these sellers within here end up reacting. So this one, the reaction hasn't really started like we've seen on the euro against the Australian dollar. But hopefully we get a mediocre reaction, not something like this. Because if they do react hard, then we'll just definitely have to end up being on the sidelines and wait for the market possibly end up resetting itself. So let's wait and see what happens. In case the market breaks and holds to the upside of this region, then I guess the sellers within this area are out. And that means we could potentially end up getting the buys on the other side of this level right here. Any buys beneath could run into issues. So make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, remember the red SNR. If the sellers do end up pushing the market quite hard and they do actually break that level to the downside, then at that point in time, we'll have to fall back on the buying opportunities. So the next one is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can also end up getting some buying opportunities. So let's see if we can get some buys within here. The market has been going up. The pullback is coming in nice and easy and quite slow, which is good. So hopefully we can get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here, because what we can visually see is that the buyers are definitely down within here. And when price comes in there, we'll definitely be interested to see whether we can get a reaction of the buyers. If that happens, then we could potentially try and see whether we could jump in on some buying opportunities. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case price finds its way there, then we should also be on the lookout to see if we could get some buys within that region. So the next euro pair, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, also a new entrant on our watch list. These are the three areas we will be watching out for. So Hopefully you can end up taking note of them. The buyers are coming in quite slow. There's a possibility they could easily end up getting pushed back by the sellers within this region. And if that happens, then I guess we'll have to end up waiting to see if we could potentially end up getting something like that, or even if you could be targeting all the way high up there, you definitely need to manage your trade somewhere within this region here or somewhere here, because you can see that the sellers within here are definitely sitting there, and they've reacted and pushed the market a number of times. Could be the reason why the market is getting into some sort of a fight within this area. You can see this reaction by the sellers within here. And after that, when the market came down here, you can see that the buyers are really struggling to push the market to the upside. So you could easily find that the market could squarely back within this region right here. And you could find the proper buys happening off that region. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. And of course, remember to watch out for the times in case the trades don't work out during the London session. Then just be a bit patient and wait and see if maybe the US big boys might potentially be interested. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, we will be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So you can see that the buyers reacted yesterday off this region right here. To come up, the sellers are coming down slowly, which is good. So we just need to see if we can get the market possibly breaking above this region to the upside. If we do end up getting that breach and a hold within this region, I think potentially we could get some good buying opportunities to come up, but also make sure that you watch out for these sellers, maybe somewhere within there or somewhere within here, because if the market comes in slowly and really struggles somewhere within this region, then you'll definitely need to do some very, very good money management at that point in time. So just make sure that you bear that in mind. But also on the other hand, considering the fact that we're within a seller's region, within this area, you could find that the price might easily end up still coming down. And maybe all through the London session, it could be on the pullback. Then during the US session, that's when the market might potentially end up taking off to the upside. So also bear that in mind. But of course, make sure that you also watch out for correlation. If you see something moving, make sure that you also end up acting like some sort of detective on the charts. Try and figure out, is it the euros or is it the Great British Pound? And if it's not the euros, maybe have a look at the rest of the GBPs to try possibly see what could be going on, so that at least you're in the picture before you jump in on a trade. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So we've mixed and matched up the buys versus the sells. So we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. So you can see that they're all on the buy side of things. So we're going to start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday, the buzz was to try and see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And it's good to see Metrin got some very, very good buys, well managed. Hopefully you're still hanging on to them. And you can see that the market is continuing to move to the upside. So you can see what the game plan was yesterday. So price was here. We're expecting maybe price to attempt to come to the downside, then back up. Hopefully, if we did get a hold within this region, you can see that the market really took off to the upside, especially with those weeks. It seems like the sellers really tried to fight and to retaliate, but the buyers did actually end up having a field day and ended up pushing the market to the upside. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we do have a conservative region. There's some sort of an SNR that the market has come into somewhere within that region there. So if you're in on any trades, also make sure that you do watch out for that region, do some money management. Maybe the market might break to the upside. You're looking for buys, but you'll definitely have to end up waiting for the pullback to come in before you do jump in on some buying opportunities here. But also the sellers could easily end up reacting off this region right here, and you could find the market coming back in within this area. And if you're looking for buys at that point in time, especially when the market comes in within this region, that's going to be a good area, especially considering the fact that this pullback will definitely end up inciting a lot of people to jump in on the sells and also end up stopping out quite a number of late buyers. Because right now when the market is going up like this, definitely a lot of people are definitely jumping into buying opportunities. So watch out for that. The reason why I'm going up to the higher time frame is also just to put a bit more context onto what's happening. Remember yesterday I had pointed out that price was possibly going to come back in within this area. And that's the reason why price has not yet tapped that region, but it's definitely an area of interest. And if I do end up going up a higher time frame to the 4-hour time frame, the market has been in a range. So it's done a full cycle last week on Friday, price was somewhere within this region. Let me see. This was the other week, or was it Friday 31st? Yeah. So price was here. It came down, hit the bottom of the range, and right now it's come back up to the top of the range, which means that you also need to be very careful in terms of looking for the buys now, because the big boys, especially on the bigger time frame, might easily be possibly switching sides and maybe starting to jump in on selling opportunities. So be very careful. It doesn't mean that the buys can't work. All I'm saying is that, as you're reading your story on the 15-minute time frame, also be well aware that you've also come into a region that is an area of interest for the traders on the bigger time frame. So make sure that you watch out for that. So moving on into the next one, which is the US 30. So for this one yesterday, it was a bit of a catch-22 situation. So price was somewhere within this area, and I had pointed out that maybe in case the market attempted to go to the upside and came back in, and we saw a sign of the big sellers coming in, at that point in time, we could have looked for the selling opportunities. But unfortunately, that did not quite happen. So the market really struggled within here. The buyers went up, sellers came down. Can't see that off this area. The buyers really pushed to the upside. And after that, I guess that was the trigger, for the market to really start moving to the upside. The sellers within here were taken out. And I guess today we're going to be looking to see whether we can get buying opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. This one has hit some sort of a resistance area at the top. Let's see if we can get the market maybe giving us some sort of a pullback. So we'll be waiting to see if we can get the market pulling back in, at least somewhat back within this region right here, because this is also an area of interest, especially on the bigger time frame. If that happens, I guess some good buying opportunities could happen off there. If the market breaks to the upside, it's okay. I guess we'll just have to end up waiting for the pullback to end up coming in before we do actually end up looking for those buying opportunities. But right now, in terms of looking for the buys, it's not that they can't work, but I think they could end up having or bearing way more risk. So it's like overtaking, at a corner. Not necessarily that you'll get an accident, but there's a high likelihood you might end up getting into an accident. So that's all I'm saying. So just make sure that you do end up bearing that in mind. So moving on into the second last thing that we look at, which is silver. So for silver, yesterday the path was to try to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right here that I have pointed out. We're expecting a pullback to come in. The pullback did not quite come in like we expected. So the market attempted to break to the upside, came back in, held within there, then broke to the downside. Then once again came up, seemed to be holding. So I guess the price was more or less holding, sometimes to the upside, sometimes to the downside of this region. And that's the reason why we've adjusted this area, just at least to easen up the confusion, because it seems like the sellers are here. This could be probes to the upside. So let's see if we can get the market, possibly if we could get some sort of a pullback coming in, somewhere as close as possible within this area here. I think that might potentially be a very good area to look for the buying opportunities. Right now, we'll just have to give the sellers the benefit of doubt. If they can end up pushing the market as close as possible within this area, I think this could potentially be a very good region, because the price has attempted to go up higher off this area. The price comes back in, it will definitely need a much better price than that. And I'm thinking the prices that are much better than this could be somewhere within this region. So let's just wait and see what happens. But of course, if that doesn't happen, we'll have to wait for the pullback after the market breaks to the upside of this region to the upside. So just make sure that you bear that in mind, and also remembering that we're looking out to see whether we can get buys. If we do get sells, well, you can't jump in on them. It's okay, but be well aware that the big boys are possibly also trying to see whether they can get buys. So you could easily end up getting stopped out at any given point in time without any warning. So that's the reason why counters are tricky. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, you can see that yesterday did actually end up making a high. The pullback did not quite happen where I was expecting, but let's see what happens today. So this was the game plan yesterday. Price was somewhere within here. I was expecting a pullback. I could possibly end up needing to end up jumping in on the buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The market continued moving up higher, which is okay. It's not really something to feel bad about, because if it's not something you can't read, then it's not a trade you should be in on. And of course, over time, we've learned how to be disciplined, over time, just getting character developed. So for today, let's see what happens. So price went up higher. Definitely gold is at a high now. There's some sort of a resistance region high up within this area that the market has formed. let's see if we can get the sellers reacting. And if we do get a proper pullback and something we can end up reading, I think some good buying opportunities might end up happening off here. And of course, also watch out for the region at the bottom. In case the market finds its way there, we're still going to be looking to see whether we can get buying opportunities. But of course, in case the market breaks beneath that region to the downside, then at that point in time, we end up having to switch bias once we do end up getting that confirmation. But the bias is still to try and see whether we can get buying opportunities. So let's see what happens on this one. There's a lot of weakness that is coming through, especially on the USD pairs. Maybe that could also be something that's also playing a part, in gold and the rest of the indices, and the commodities may be moving the way they are, but let's see what does end up happening today. So on the fundamental front, even as we come to an end for today, quite a number of events. So you can't see that at 3, the GBPs, I think there will be a lot of volatility because you can't see that there will be interest rate decisions that are going to be happening. So make sure that you do have look out for that. And so I guess a lot of activity then. For the US, we have the initial jobless claims that are going to be coming out like they always do every Thursday. So let's see what does end up happening on that one as well. So make sure that you watch out for those times. During the London session, not really much that's going to be happening, although there's at least some Euro and some GBP news events, some PMIs. Could find some movements here and there on the Euro and the Great British Pound. So let's wait and see what does end up happening. But I would definitely advise that you do keep an eye out for the GBPs at around 3. And of course, if you're going to be in on any trades at that point in time, just make sure that you manage them. If you're going to be looking for trades when the news event is happening, maybe you could put some pending orders. I wouldn't really advise you to take instant market executions, especially when the markets are volatile, because you could easily get into slippage and deviation. You hit the buy, but where the buy starts off from is very far, or the sell where it starts off from is very far, and you might end up easily getting into some unnecessary drawdown. So maybe possibly either putting some pending orders or waiting for the dust to settle. So after the news events are over, then after that, that's when you can easily end up jumping in onto the charts, especially after the market gets into one predetermined position. Because sometimes when the interest rate decisions or maybe high impact news events end up happening, you find that there's a lot of whipsaws, a lot of guys are thrown into confusion. 1 minute it's going down, everyone is thinking it's a sell. The next minute it goes up. So instead of getting caught up in such kind of things, at least it's better to wait for the dust to settle or maybe put a pending order. That's what I would best advise. And of course, if you're in on daily trades, make sure you do manage them when the news event comes out. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us today. So on the chat box, not really seeing much, which is okay. I guess everything is clear. In case it's not, at least you can end up watching this as many times as possible. And also our contact details are definitely there on the video description. So feel free to reach out to us. And of course, I guess you do have a wonderful day on the charts and in everything else that you do end up doing. So I guess we'll see you guys tomorrow. So with that, God bless and may the peace be with you. Bye for now.